I haven't been able to go out in ages, ever since they cut my hours. This week I've only got a 3-hour shift and last week I had no hours.
Really? That's so strange. Last week they gave me 2 extra weekend shifts.
You're kidding me. I can't afford to have tiny hours each week. I'll have to give up my Netflix soon.
You can have one of my weekend shifts. I could use the day off to chill during the weekend.
Oh, thank you so much. That would be so good. Minimum wage with barely any hours is killing me.
You're still on minimum wage? I got a raise just the other week. Thought they were giving it to all the drivers since the business is doing so well. I think you need to talk to the manager. Doesn't sound very fair to me.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to. Otherwise I'll have to find another job.
After the conversation with her workmate, Grace may look at the situation through the lenses of organizational justice. This is the overall perception of the person of what is fair in the workplace, and it can be distributive, procedural, or interactive in nature. This situation is elements of all three, but focuses mainly on the procedural nature of the situation. As we may see, and we can see this later on when Grace attempts to discuss the lack of hours and her pay rate with her manager. Procedural justice is reflective of the process in which the employer attempts to resolve an inequity in the workplace, and it includes explanation for the outcomes given by the manager and the input that the employee has in the overall process.
Hey Grace.
Hey. I just wanted to talk to you about my hours and pay. I know Karishma is getting the extra weekend shifts, but I've been getting one short shift each week and she got a raise a few weeks ago. I was wondering if I could renegotiate my contract with you to have a weekend shift and maybe a pay rise.
We can see here that Grace is attempting to engage in a form of process control by presenting her concerns about the little hours she gets and the low pay that she's getting at the moment to the decision makers, who in this case is her manager.
I can't do that. You just have to make time for a weekday shift.
I already talked to Karishma and she said she wouldn't mind a day off during the weekend.
I'm sorry, you just have to make do until I can find you another free shift.
We can see that the situation is more procedural in nature with elements of both distributive and interaction justice. Grace has attempted to engage in a constructive conversation regarding a perceived inequality in the workplace. However, her manager has immediately disregarded Grace's concern, offering no explanation for her decision and not allowing any input from Grace regarding her decision. This situation also has elements of distributive nature due to the perceived fairness in the allocation of hours and pay disparity that still exist within the organization. Finally, the situation may also be interactive in nature due to the way Grace may feel that she is being treated with respect and dignity.
I'm not sure why she can't give me a weekend shift. She's always been really dismissive of me ever since I started. I can't understand why though. I work hard, I show up on time. I think she just likes Karishma more than me. If I can't get more hours, I'll have to quit and find a new job, which sucks because I really like this job.
Right here is a clear example of equity theory, or perhaps the lack of. The equity theory states that the employee perceive outcomes from a job situation in relation to what they put into it, and then they compare their input-outcome ratio with that of others in a similar situation. In this example, we see Grace comparing her effort to the number of hours received and her hourly wage, then comparing it with another employee within the same role who is receiving more hours and a highly hourly wage. There are 4 types of comparison that the employee can make: self-inside, self-outside, other inside, and other outside. In this case, Grace has chosen other inside because she is comparing herself to another employee within the organization. What is interesting here that she has then perceived her situation to be unequal, and this has then created an equity tension causing her to feel under-rewarded and feeling treated unfairly, which will often lead to anger and dissettlement toward the manager. We know that employers who perceive inequality in the workplace will make one of 6 choices: change their inputs, change their outcomes, distort perception of self, distort perception of others, choose a different referent, and or leave the field. In this case, the employee has both distorted perception of herself and distorted perception of her manager, as well as considering leaving the job. Quite an interesting situation.
Yeah.
Hey Sebastian, can I talk to you about my hours and pay?
Sure thing, Grace. What's the problem?
Well, I was talking to Karishma and she told me she was rostered on for 2 weekend shifts. But I only have 1 shift this week and I'm finding it really hard to get by while at uni.
I'm not sure I can change the driver's roster. That's Kitki's job. But I could use some more help around the kitchen.
I'd be more than happy to help out. Karishma also told me she received a small pay rise a few weeks ago, but I didn't. And I was wondering if there was a chance I could renegotiate my contract at the same rate as the other drivers.
I'd be more than happy to look over your contract with Grace.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me.
Here we see contrasting ways in which management within the organisation has handled the perceived inequality. Initially, we saw the manager dismiss Grace's concern and give little explanation for her decision to give no extra shifts or renegotiate Grace's pay. A better way to handle this situation would have been for the manager to discuss why no extra hours could be given, or work out an alternative arrangement regarding hours with Grace. The manager could also provide an explanation as to the differences in pay between employees, and this will give Grace a better understanding of the variables that may have led to one employee receiving a higher wage than the other. Alternatively, the manager may want to discuss such employee issues with the owner to properly address the situation and find an adequate situation. And finally, the manager should approach discussions with employees with an open and understanding demeanor, encouraging the employee to voice their concerns and create a sociable and a better environment.
I know people will say I should have been more open to discussion with Grace, but sometimes I'm too busy to explain why I can't give more hours or why one employee gets a higher wage than another. Also, the owner and I are very busy people who have to manage different sides of the business, so it can be difficult to get together to discuss every single issue someone may have.
There are some limitations to the equity theory and reasons why not all recommendations can be implemented. The theory does not take into account that the employer may seek to discuss their issues with higher management and that the perceived inequality can be addressed at that level. This meant that instead of quitting her job, Grace chose to seek out an alternative situation. Additionally, equity theory is heavily reliant on the employee's perceived fairness regarding pay and other internal factors, while ignoring other relevant variables such as job satisfaction and recognition.
I think it was difficult at the beginning to talk to my manager. I'm not sure why she doesn't like me, but the situation seemed to fix itself once I talked to the owner, and I'm feeling much better. Now I don't have to give up my Netflix.